Good morning to everyone. I hope you all had a good morning, interesting morning. This sessions that you have been listening to. You know, how many of you are currently? How many of you consider yourself as investor? How many of you investor? That means you have invested in something or other. Okay? So if you have invested in something or other, the first thing you must ask yourself is, what will happen if I lose my investment? What are my rights? Okay, before you invest, you must know why you are investing, the purpose of investing, and you need to know, how am I protected? In 1998, September, the Malaysian government decided to seize our shares in 112 Malaysian companies, and they told us, give 52 cents per dollar and we will return. We had nobody here to do anything about it because Mahathir said, I will not speak to Lee Kuan Yew, I will not speak to Goh Chok Tong, I will not speak to anybody. I will only speak to the small investors. I will speak to them. Can you imagine a prime minister of a foreign country telling, I will speak to the citizens of Singapore. If they want to settle, they can talk to me. So I gave up my law practice. I gave up everything to start SIS. Because you had no voice. You had nobody to represent you. Those who invested. Ordinary citizens, mums and paps, retirees, people who have put their life savings, didn't have any clue about why this was happening to them. And it's a foreign country, you can't do anything. In Singapore, the court system is there. If the assets are here, we can seize, we can sue them, we can bring them to court. But in Malaysia, you file a case in Malaysia, you will take easily 7 to 10 years, and the outcome is not known. In Singapore, we can settle things within 6 months. So I organized 172,000 Singaporeans into an organization called SIAS, Securities Investors Association Singapore. And this SIAS was first known, the acronym was known as Silly Investors Always Suffer. But it was really funny, because we were silly. We didn't know what we were doing, where we were investing, why we were investing in Malaysia. But I was determined to make it smart investors always succeed. If you are a smart investor, please clap. Good. So I like to hear that. So this morning I've been asked, we work very closely with MAS and SGX. It's like a triangle, You have MAS and SGX, board directors and senior management, and SIS. We don't work in, isolation. Singapore is a small city. Anyone who kicks doors and bangs tables will not get anywhere. So today my exercise is to show you how we protect your rights. How we in Singapore have come about working for you and you only. And you are not even our members. How many are SIAS members? Wow, I'm sorry, I withdraw that. Good. I'm encouraged. So, the shareholder rights, your rights as a shareholder of a company, all right, you are protected by the Companies Act, the SGX listing rules, Singapore Corporate Governance Code, which is not a law but a recommendation, a set of recommendations which the companies have to follow. If not, SGX will ask them why not. Singapore Takeover Code, Securities and Futures Act, Memorandum and Articles. Now, you don't have to go through that this morning because I think you have to be a lawyer to understand all this. All right, we will just tell you I will just tell you that these are the laws that we look at, all right, who administers them. ACRA administers Companies Act, SGX administers listing rules, SGX and MAS, Corporate Governance Code, Securities Industry Council under MAS, Securities and Futures Act. So any company wanting to sell shares, anyone wanting to sell investments must know this. Right? You buy the investments, you're going to understand this is going to be difficult. You go to a lawyer, he will charge you a lot of money. So if you're a member of SIAS, we hold seminars, we explain to you what your rights are, like this morning, but more in detail in some workshops, all right? So when a law is passed by Parliament, it has to be followed and complied with. Whoever is acting, whoever is selling investment products must follow the law, all right? So these are the laws that I mentioned just now. One are statutory and non-statutory. Don't need to worry too much about it. But this is something you must look at. In a very simple language, I have asked the lawyers to sit down with me and prepared for you the shareholder rights booklet, which is online. You just go to the computer, and if you are like me, about 70 years old, you can come to SIAS and we'll give you a copy. All right, we are running out of it. We have to print again, but for those who are young and middle-aged, you will be able to access online. Those who are used to online, please go to this site and you'll get the full text. So, if you want to buy shares, you must know the company well. You must know who is running it, what is his track record, at least accounts for 3 years, and what is his governance, who sits on the board, what is the experience, what is the business. All right, that I'm sure you all are asking that. And so you have the right to attend meetings, you have the right to speak, but some of our shareholders, they shout and scream and scold, and then the whole thing is spoiled. And some chairmen also, they are very intolerant. Some companies don't like you to ask questions. That's why SIAS, now is acting on your behalf. We are sending questions and asking them to answer. All right, you are entitled to receive the notice of the meeting as in accordance with the M&A, and you have the right to be treated fairly. All right, the majority shareholders and minority shareholders must be treated fairly and equally. So, right to recover the original subscription price on the winding up of the company, if it's a voluntary winding up. A reasonable exit alternative should the company delist from SGX, all right, under the SGX rules. So, companies should actively engage you as shareholders and put in place an investor relations policy. This is in the Corporate Governance Code. Boards should establish and maintain regular dialogue with shareholders. This is something that I've been insisting with companies, and companies now come to SIAS the moment they think there's going to be a problem. Last 2 days, I've been at HiFlux. Morning, I chaired a meeting for note holders, bond holders. Evening for perpetual and, perpetual investors, securities holders. And last night it was shareholders. So companies have accepted that dialogue sessions and meetings is very important with SIAS. We got to do it. Because if they don't communicate, you don't know what is happening. You will be imagining. Imagination leads to hallucination. Hallucination leads to I going mad. So you all run up to SIAS and you scream and you bang tables and you say, what the hell is happening? So better avoid all that. Let us meet, discuss with the company, and tell you what is happening. So you will know exactly where you stand, whether or not you'll get back your investment. What is the company doing? What is its plan, restructuring plan? All right? So this is something that we have created and is very well established. So you have a right to receive information from the company, annual report, and all information in a timely manner, whether it's quarterly, half-yearly. They have the right to receive financial statements, annual reports, right to inspect certain registers. Now, the last one is a bit, I always get complaints that we can't inspect the shareholder register. So we always tell ACRA about it, and the ACRA will settle it. They will call companies, secretaries, and it will be done. So when you have a complaint about your investments, you must always say SIAS. All right? I mean, I'm here with my colleagues, with my committee, to solve your headache for $1 a month. That's all you pay. You go and see a lawyer, you better have $50,000 deposit, minimum. Okay? So recently, there has been a lot of unhappiness about this. Some people have been writing the papers, dual class shares. Usually, you have only one voting right. Now, here A class votes and B class votes, two types of shares. And this is by like Facebook and Alibaba. They are entrepreneurs. They start a company and they tell you, you don't have a right to vote if you buy shares in my company. I will decide. So if you trust that man, you buy the share. If not, you don't need to buy. People say it's unfair. In every capital market, this is happening, but you don't need to buy. If you don't understand, don't buy. That's a basic thing you must always write in your heart. If I don't understand, I don't buy. In Singapore, I don't understand, I buy. Okay, so it's no longer one share, one vote. Founder shares have higher voting rights. New class of companies to be listed on SGX, and the companies that have done well, dual class shares like Google, Alibaba, Facebook. So it is happening, but you must look at it very carefully. Yeah? So the aim of constitutional democracy is to safeguard the rights of the minority and avoid the tyranny of the majority. And I must say, in Singapore, you're very lucky. The government is conscious of your rights, especially after Klopp and the Lehman Brothers. SIS has become very active, and they support us. This morning, you can see this is a My Money seminar with MAS and SIS and ABS, Association of Banks. In collaboration, we achieve a lot. In isolation, we achieve nothing. Okay, so when you come to see me, I'm able to pick up the phone and call SGX. I'm able to pick up the phone and call MAS or CPIB or CAD. All right? Whoever is doing. Recently, we made sure two fellas who cheated Singaporeans, two Angmos, profitable plots. We locked them up. I'm proud to say that we locked them up because they cheated us, cheated our members. 300 people came to see me, and I went to CAD few times, and we were being, informed of what's happening, and we wanted them locked up. So if you are cheated, we will act. Come and see us immediately. But you must have evidence. But if you lose money in the market, don't come and see us. You make an informed decision, you buy this chip and that chip, and then you say, cannot lah, he took so much of money, and then you dividend, I didn't get anything, I lost my money, sorry. That is not something SIAS can do anything about it. Government can't do anything about it. This is an investment decision you make. Before you make now, you must be an educated investor. If you're not educated, you are gambling. So I just give you some examples of how we have helped. There are many, many cases that I have championed with my colleagues to help you. In NetSteel, the very first company, it was owned by government, the very first company that was listed in Singapore. So NetSteel, as you know, there was a fight between Ong Beng Seng and another guy, okay, Ooi Hong Leong. These two were fighting for ownership. So when the elephants fight, the ants get trampled. Some of you who bought shares were told, you will not get your dividend unless you vote for the amendment of the memorandum of, articles, that in future dividends will not be in dollars, but dividends will be in scrips. Now retirees in particular buy shares in companies for income, for dividends, not so much for growth, but more for dividends. So that was being threatened. And I tried to get hold of the chairman as usual. That was beginning, in year 2001 or 2. I think the date is there, 2001. I could not get him, but he said, my lawyer says, later, my lawyer said, cannot see you. I rushed to NetSteel. I delivered a hand delivered myself, I was postman. All the way from city, I drove to Jurong. I said, this is not fair to the shareholders. They're all expecting dividends. We need to talk. There is always a solution. We can resolve it in the boardroom. See us in the meeting. We cannot see you. I'm not a shareholder of NetSteel. So they made a mistake by allowing me into the meeting. And we beat the resolution hands down. It's not the right way to do things. This is not how companies should conduct themselves. And they learn a lesson. And that lesson went far and wide to all companies. Do not take on SIAS. Don't take us on. All right? You are behind us. The shareholders are behind us. We only do right things. We don't want headlines in newspapers. We don't want that. We want fair treatment. All right? We want everybody to be treated equally. They learned a lesson. They got beaten. They put the tail between the legs and came back. Can we change the name of the company? 4 years they couldn't change. They paid the dividends as requested by us. They paid the dividends. All right? That was most unnecessary by a company. Now, Isetan. As you all know, those days companies had tax credit and they were given a certain date by which distribute the tax credit. Again, most of the people who are aggrieved by Isetan not distributing the tax credit were the old people. So they went to ask the Japanese director and independent directors, distribute that tax credit. They got no answer. They went to call for an EOGM on their own. Majority voted against them. Now, by now, I realize that the way to get things done is not at the AGM for SIAS, but in the boardroom. We get them into the boardroom over a cup of tea, we chat, we discuss they will tell us their difficulty, we will tell your difficulties, we then discuss how to resolve it. Not how to fight, but how to resolve it amicably so that it will be good for the company and good for shareholders. As I said earlier, our capital markets cannot have turbulence. If there is turbulent weather, all the time people fighting, all the time newspapers are coming up with stories, and you find directors are very busy going to lawyers' firms, accountants' firms, investor relations, public relations, spending a lot of time, 400,000, 500,000 gone, and then their business is neglected. That's not good for you. Okay? So we say, carry on with your business, we will resolve it in the boardroom. Okay? And don't call the press in, don't call the lawyers in. All right? I'm a lawyer, but the moment you call lawyers in, that means he's going to court. And then for years, it'll be dragging on. So we resolve it without going to court. So in the boardroom and not the courtroom is the way we resolve. So here, I called the independent director from the law firm of Lee and Lee, and I told him, look, what I read in the papers is not good. Why is this happening? Directors and shareholders not getting along. Can we talk to the Japanese directors and resolve this? So next day he brought the Japanese director himself. 3 of them came and we discussed. The Japanese director took his phone, called Tokyo and said, I think this union leader is very reasonable. I think we need to pay. And then a few days later, they paid $1.50, distributed. In Asia, whether you're a Chinese boss, you're Indian boss, or Japanese boss, you don't break the face. You must give them respect. So go to AGM, you shout, you say you all are stealing, you are a robber, you're a robber, this, that. You disgrace them, the fellow is already mangchang already, he doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't want to talk to you, he doesn't want to listen to you. But you show respect, put your point across. Most of the time they will respond. If they don't respond, you come to SIAS. All right? We will write them a letter or call them and they will come. And we will resolve it. So you all know about China Aviation Oil. Darling of the market, suddenly collapsed. Why? The CEO was actually, what was the CEO doing? He was dabbling in oil futures without telling the board, and he brought the company down to his knees. And then all of a sudden I got a call from a lady speaking in Mandarin from China. So I called my secretary who knows Mandarin. He said, what is she saying? Oh, she wants to come and see you. She's from the Ministry of Finance from Beijing. So company has collapsed. Why are they coming to see me? They said, 12 of them came down. Are you going to sue us? So my answer to her was, how to sue a dead horse? But you got 154 China-listed companies in Singapore. If you don't resurrect this company, if you don't work with us to bring this company back on its feet, the shareholders are going to throw the other shares, other company shares. They're going to lose confidence in you. He said, okay, if you give me the promise you will not sue us, we will work with you and we'll go to SGX and we'll work with SGX. We'll find new investors. We'll stay here. We wanted to, otherwise we'll pack up and go. Zero. That means you get nothing. So I saw the opportunity to work with them to bring the company back on its feet. All right? Give new life. They promised to put 170 million US. It took us about a year or more, year and a half, to bring the company back to trading. There were a lot of meetings. And China Aviation Oil shareholders were not our members. Asked them to join also, they don't want to join. But we, labored because we feel that it is good for Singapore. To show and to demonstrate to the world that we are responsible investors, responsible activists. All right? We don't tear down companies, we rebuild companies. And that was a very good example how we did it together. And China Aviation Oil, as you all know, those who stayed put, I made a public call not to do anything, not to sue, not to do anything, wait, and you'll get back your shares, and you got back your shares. Okay? So, what happened here? Yeah, so next one, you all know about Tiger Airways. All right, Tiger Airways offer was not acceptable to many of the shareholders or founders. IPO, at the IPO they bought at a certain price, and the offer price was 36% below the IPO over the years. 67 cents would have been the offer, but they were 30-something cents, and they were not happy. We wrote to SIA. They said, no, we're not going to review. But when we publicized it and we, re-approached them, after 2 weeks or so, they increase the shares price, the offer. So what we did was behind the scenes. All right, we did release the letter to the press because they were not responding, but after that they responded, and they felt that, what we were saying does make sense. We may not get the 67 cents, but we got 45 cents. And sometimes, director boards, there is on the board there will be dissension. People try to throw the board out. All right, but RTO was good. We felt that the new injection of RTO by the new guys would be good for the company. And we asked the current directors to give way to allow the RTO to take place. So that was agreed, and we have been very involved also in the oil and gas debacles. The note holders do not have an association, that is the bondholders. Only shareholders have been coming to see us. They were stranded. So we had to work with companies like Izion from the beginning, from day one. I must say that if there is someone whom I would recognize as one of the best CEOs, would be Izion. Very sincere. He was so sick, he was taking something like 7 pills, and he was, out of breath, and he came with a high fever. And I touched him and I said, Shu, why are you here? You could have asked your accountants to do it. They are waiting for me. It is my mistake. If, all this happened, I take it as my mistake. Actually, oil prices fell, and it's not his mistake, but he still felt, I have to meet them. I cannot be staying in the house in bed. Out of breath, he actually stood there for 1.5 hours. There's a kind of corporate leaders that we think that we are very fortunate to have. And we worked it through with, Izion. And there are many cases where, we have worked with companies to bring value back to you. Monitor your investments closely. If you're an investor, if you don't monitor, you buy and you forget about it. And one day you read in the papers it's collapsed or something happened and you come running. Please, periodically, every month, just look at it. Go to the website or look at the newspapers. Look at the website, newspapers, news. Something happened or there's some announcements. I don't think any of you go to the SGX website. How many of you go to the SGX website every week or every other week? No, only 1 or 2. If you invest, you must go to the company website and announcements are made, or look at the SGX net. All right? See what is happening. Developments in the company you must follow. So you must understand your company thoroughly. I put my money and my hard-earned money into this company. I must know everything that's happening. Resignation of directors, CFO. Why? Write in. If they don't answer, come to SIS or call us. All right? We'll find out for you. If a good CFO leaving is a matter of concern. A good CEO is leaving, it is really must worry us. All right? There must be something. If they don't give the reasons, we must know the reasons. So do your homework before you invest. As I said in the beginning, don't part with your money unless you're very sure that this company has a growth history. This company is well governed, follows the corporate governance code. All right? We do ratings of companies with Prof. Low and his team. Now what we do is we rate the corporate governance. The experts like them, they know how to rate. They give us the rating. How do they fare against the corporate governance code? How do they fare against OECD standards? These are international standards. And they give us the ratings. And you know what? When these companies win the awards for good corporate governance, we did a research last 6 years, and we find most of them outperform as a group, outperform the STI index. If you have invested in any of them, I'm not recommending, but I said if you have invested, you would have had an experience of how these companies performed in terms of share price. Well-governed companies are safe to invest. Some exceptions, mostly they are safe to invest, and you must look at the governance very carefully. Okay? So, how do you know that? You have to look at their annual report, you got to look at their practices, you got to look at CR's award winners. You have a look. A lot of work, 6 months work goes into studying the companies. And read the prospectus, annual reports, and the announcements. All right, so we've done this. What I want to say is, you can reach us at this address. I feel that many of you have not actually been looking at the company's annual reports. So we posed 3 questions with the help of SGX. And if I may say, with the approval of MAS, we have been introducing 3 questions on annual report of companies. We have covered 350 companies. I do not know any of you are investing, have looked at our website. It's for you to ask at the meeting. In-depth questions, we ask in-depth questions on governance, on financial strategies, on their business strategies, and on their financial performance. You ask just those 3 questions. Each question has got 3 or 4 sub-questions. The company will have to disclose fully, and you will go home with much more information than asking about what is the food today. Some people are still asking that, they shouldn't worry about food. Is a privilege, not a right. If they give, it's fine. But you need to ask about dividend payment, you need to ask about performance, the growth, and independence on the board, internal audit. You need to ask about controls, internal controls. How are there internal controls? Look at all those things. We have got a lot of booklets which we have worked with lawyers and partners. We have put it on our front office table, or you can call us and collect it. All right, so what can we learn from these case studies? We have learned that we all have rights, but pushing just to maximize your rights does not always yield the desired result. Okay, so you need to always remember that there are ways of enforcing your rights. Courts very, very expensive. If you have problems about your rights, call SIAS. Okay, 6227-2683. All right, call us. It's free. All right, you go and call your lawyer. You have to pay deposit money, and he will want to drag you to court. You want to do that? I don't know the outcome, but here in the boardroom, we'll resolve it when affects all shareholders. In Asia, face is important. As I told you, better sit down with the company to discuss rather than to fight them. We negotiate, we get a win-win outcome. So, minority shareholders are stronger together with SIS than by yourself. Join us, and we will, fight your cause. We have numerous resources on investor rights, FAQs. Lawyers have prepared answers for questions which you have to pay for, but it is free for you on our website. Go to our website. All these videos of My Money series, MAS has very kindly, with ABS, both institutions have paid for it, very kindly allowed us to put it on our website so that you all can learn. Put your legs up after dinner, sit down and watch the video. And you will be a better investor, more informed. All right? So if you have any issue, you can always call SIS or email SIS. And you can attend our investment seminars, clinics, workshops, and you will be a better investor. Most of our activities are free, all right? And we do not charge you for most of the events, but some certificate course or some training workshops you to pay, because we have to pay the trainers and the venue and the F&B. So $1 a month is $12 a year. We are happy to say that because the way we conducted ourselves, because we are useful to the authorities and shareholders, we are working closely with SGX and MAS on your behalf. They recognize that your rights should be enforced. They recognize that SIAS can do the job for you. I am now 74. I feel I'm 24. But my colleagues, in my committee are very good people. I have a corporate lawyer. I have a former partner with Deloitte, my vice president. I have highly qualified people. So should the good Lord call me, don't worry, there are enough people to take care of you, okay? Recently, we have received recognition from overseas, our neighboring countries. Thailand wants a SIAS, in 100% SIAS. I don't speak Thai, but they want me to go and help them do what. So we are doing a conference for them, corporate governance conference, but it is very difficult to start a SIAS. First of all, funding. Secondly, support. If the association that exists for you is not supported by you, it will die. When you do a trade, you lose commission, you lose money. But when we ask for $1 a month, many of them turn away. But when they have trouble, they come running. Please remember, if you don't support SIAS, SIAS will not be here. How many of you will support SIAS? Can I see? Thank you. All of you go and line up, pay up the $1. Thank you.